Hi, all. How's it going? Thanks for checking me out. As usual, I appreciate it. Um, got a different kind of edition for you today. Uh, I got my Jesus candle here for those of you who enjoyed it last time. I'm going to, pardon me, I'm stuffy as always. I'd like to read some new writing for you towards the next book. It's not something I would normally do. I don't like to put things out till they're more complete. But what's going on is I'm very there's basically a first draft of my next book, but there are sections that really need some work. So I've been trying to put more time towards it just so I can really just knock it out. And of course, the book is called Life is Magic, Part One, because it'll be in two books, is the hope. And what I'm doing today that's different than anything I've done before is, of course, I read my whole first book as installments on YouTube, which was the way that a lot of people got to know me, which is kind of neat. For this one, these chapters that I'm going to read are in draft form. They appear in the middle of the book, and there are four of them. So one is very short, so it's really like three and then almost like a tag on. I don't know how much I'm going to read today. I don't know if I'll read one or maybe two, but I thought I'd do a couple of videos with these draft chapters and then hopefully get some feedback from you. So they are all about the potential nature of God. So that's risky subject matter, and that's why it's taking me so long to work on these. And they appear in the middle of the book. So I'm reading them a little out of context, which is another thing I don't really like to do because of the way they are set up in the book. But what precedes them mainly are some what I think are funny chapters about time and time loops and some of the stuff I've been dreaming about lately, but that I started writing about years ago. And some funny family stories related to like what might be time distortion or dilation. So, and then these kind of come in and the book shifts a bit. And then when these chapters are complete, the first section of the book is over, and then the second section begins and gets kind of more personal again. So I vacillate between the personal and the universal, if you will, throughout most of the book. But these chapters are more on the cosmic front. So as you can see, the sun is going down. So we're going to need this extra light soon, plus the light from the computer. So yeah, let me get into it. And your thoughts are welcome. Some people will probably not. I mean, I don't think these will appeal to everybody. But that's not the point exactly. Obviously, I want people to enjoy them if they do or find them interesting. But like my mom doesn't really kind of ponder the nature of God the way that I do. It's just the way my mind works. I'm interested in metaphysics and possibilities, and I'm interested in this seeming strange relationship between mathematics and magic in this universe, which is a way that I like to think of it and write about it. So it may be more unique to me. I don't know how many people it will appeal to. I admit that it's further into space than a lot of people like to go. So if it doesn't speak to you, that's okay. But it will, unless these chapters just end up really being a train wreck, they'll probably be in the next book in some form. So draft form for feedback from you, if you please. All right, here we go. Pardon me. The first of these chapters about God is called Is God the Ultimate Creative Computer? So one more time. Is God the ultimate creative computer? No, but almost. So that's the setup. All right, here we go. Given tens of thousands of years as the dominant and evolving life form on Earth, it was inevitable that humans would discover many of the mathematical principles which underlie existence and make intelligent life possible. If some kind of creator exists, as I absolutely believe, then it must be at least partly computational in nature, because the physical laws that govern existence are so precise and perfect that they allow life to flourish everywhere and for the universe to remain seemingly stable. Our universe behaves like a magical computing device, and its principles can be expressed in binary code and mathematical language. That doesn't mean that we've discovered how these physical rules came to be, or how they were ever possibly conceived, but God is almost certainly the engineer. As I often say, I envision God as the ultimate creative artist married with the infinite power of an unfathomably powerful supercomputer. This is also why astrology and astronomy are the same thing expressed in different ways, since they're both based on the mathematically specific interrelationships between and among various planetary bodies in the solar system, and the overarching relationships and movements of solar systems within galaxies and galaxies within the universe, but also within the context of emotional energetic interactions. Okay, how are we doing so far? All right. Most scientists, physicists, and mathematicians agree that the technology of any intelligent biological civilization like ours, which evolves on planets throughout the universe, will inevitably progress forward unless an unfortunate existential threat like an asteroid, mass corona ejection, or nuclear disaster sets a civilization back for a period of time or wipes it out entirely. This has certainly happened too. If not here, then in other places, given the age of the universe. And then this section is in parentheses. Oops. And if you can believe it, there's even physical evidence of nuclear detonations on Mars, which occurred millions of years ago based on the geological record. In one of his YouTube videos, Sterling Psychic Medium... Oops, I got that backwards. I'll move it now while I'm thinking of it. Oops. In one of his YouTube videos, Sterling Psychic Medium claimed that these nuclear detonations were the result of an interstellar turf war between advanced alien civilizations ages ago. I don't know if this is true. And then the parentheses are closed. All right. Let me add a little light. Okay, so we got a couple different colors going on now. All right. Any civilization which survives long enough to reach its version of God's... Any civilization which survives long enough to reach its version of Earth's industrial age and beyond will begin to discover the physical laws which undergird existence. Okay? Albert Einstein and the other great thinkers of the last human century were essentially destined to discover many principles of reality, and a strong case can be made that they were assisted via intuition, which is a form of knowledge from spirit and the creator. All right? Ideas from the greater collective consciousness may well have been sprinkled into the unconscious minds of these geniuses, like Einstein, whether they were aware of receiving outside help or not, and also because they remained connected to their feelings. Einstein recognized the moral imperatives that science requires for ethical conduct. You can't just scoop the secrets of the universe and use them for selfish gain. Or maybe it should say, or use them only for selfish gain. Okay. Even if Einstein, Oppenheimer, Sagan, Hawking, and hundreds of other incredible thinkers hadn't discovered many of the properties of reality, others eventually would have. And of course, so I named Einstein. Oppenheimer's development of the atomic bomb. Carl Sagan was a famous astronomer. Stephen Hawking was a famous physicist. Okay, so even if Einstein, Oppenheimer, Sagan, Hawking, and hundreds of other incredible thinkers hadn't discovered many of the properties of reality, others eventually would have. It was literally just a matter of time. The rules of our physical universe have been in place since inception, before humans ever arrived on the scene, awaiting discovery once mankind was sufficiently intelligent. This is also why, sorry, editing at the same time. This is also why alien races have likely beaten us to this stage of evolution. We cannot be the first to arrive here in a universe nearly 14 billion years old. It's too unlikely. All right. As we enter an ever more computerized age, which often feels like more like science fiction than reality, there will continue to be more nearly unfathomable technological leaps ahead. Therefore, just as the discovery of many of the physical laws was inevitable, so too is the human development of ever more powerful computing devices. All right. The next paradigm shift will almost definitely be centered around the relatively new technological frontier of artificial intelligence. Let's draw some parallels to think about it and how AI may relate to a creator. Sorry, Jesus. All right. Neural networks in humans can be accurately described as complex computer algorithms that learn tasks by analyzing vast amounts of data. And basic artificial intelligence in computers imitates the human neural network, which is pliantly computational in nature and construct. It's fair to say that the computers of today are beginning to think like us. The main difference being that their processing ability, though impressive, still isn't as powerful as a human brain yet. Many technologists predict that computers will catch up with and then eclipse humans in raw computing speed by the mid-21st century. So some of us may see it, and some of us may not, whether it actually comes true or not, as I believe. Okay. Pardon me, always stuffy. Okay, so in a sense, computers are of us as they imitate our brain construct. And perhaps both humans and computers imitate at a much lower level the essentially computational nature of God, the original artist / supercomputer. Put that in there. Okay, so then there's a little ... So like differentiating the front half of this chapter from the next section. Okay. Like a ... All right. Slightly new thought here. At the risk of further complicating things, let me introduce you to Google Brain. Yes, Google Brain is what I said. BRAIN. All right. Developed somewhat obviously by powerful 21st century technology company Google, Brain is a virtual neural network, an artificial intelligence experience whose software simulates the learning model of the human mind. Google considers its project a shift towards a new form of artificial intelligence it calls deep learning. All right. According to Time magazine, when the rudimentary version of Google Brain was first created back in 2011, so that's already 10 years, it was possessed of immense raw computing power, but it had no independent ideas to reference to begin to operate. Void of any internal content, Google Brain had no inherent creativity. In some sense, it was a big, immensely powerful blank canvas without purpose. The introduction of speech recognition to Google Brain's neural network improved its thinking and strengthened its built-in object recognition capabilities. After its first year of operation, it finally had the intellectual capacities of a 1-year-old child. To further improve its synaptic connections, like we have in the human brain, engineers fed Brain mass quantities of raw photographic imagery, including everything from people and places to things like animals, appliances, urban landscapes, and other everyday objects. External input, which was then internalized by the machine. Neural computers, like Brain, are designed to make classifications or predictions based on an ability to discover patterns in data. Brain was encouraged to recognize and, in some sense, to contemplate the new input it was gifted, its first experiences of anything outside of itself. With its billions, trillions of neurons now finally engaged with content, Brain leaped into action. But what Brain did was more than just examine the data, it extrapolated from it. Excuse me. Brain pondered what it was fed and then manipulated it and played with it, mixing and matching bits and pieces of earthly imagery into all kinds of odd new things, including non-existent species of surreal fictional animals and beings, impossible fauna found nowhere on the planet, and unrecognizable new landscapes. It invented new artificial worlds. Some of its creations were strangely beautiful. Others were nightmarish and grotesque, as if from a horror movie. From the engineer's perspective, what Google Brain had done was not only to analyze and play with the real-world Earth imagery it had been fed, but to actively dream about it, though they weren't sure why. This made me wonder if God was/is the original dreamer, not entirely unlike Google Brain. As you know, I already conceive of God as a magical paradox, somehow encompassing all that is, was, and will be, and the origin of all thoughts and concepts which are distilled down into beings like us, as if we are manifestations of God at a much lower vibrational dimension, which may actually be the case. Some deep thinkers on planet Earth, some very deep thinkers on planet Earth, have speculated that we already exist in a virtual reality like the one I'm imagining Google Brain creating. Renowned mathematician Stephen Hawking said he believed our universe is a hologram, which is not unlike the Google Brain universe/environment I've just described. But that's not what I'm selling. Okay, so stick with me. I wonder if it should say, so stick with me. That's what I'm selling. That's not what I'm selling, so stick with me. All right. Okay. Yes, civilizations like ours may be destined to imitate God by creating intelligent computers, which in turn create new virtual realities within themselves and thus within our own reality, like one reality nestled within another, or like those Chinese dolls. Or no, Russian dolls, right? Or like Russian dolls. I'll write that in there too, because it's a good metaphor, I think. Okay, if this is true, that we have like sort of realities nestled within realities, is it even possible to trace one's way back to the original universe from which it all sprang? Would we find the true original God at the doorway of the first universe? So many unanswerable questions. It's not impossible that the God I believe in, the original creator, is like Google Brain and hallucinating in a dreamlike state. But there's one big distinction which I feel makes all the difference. Google Brain is powerful and will be more powerful in time, but God is more evolved and presumably infinite, such that its dreams, if this reality is a dream, if any, are stable and evolved into the fully functioning matrix that we experience as our universe. And I highly doubt anyone can unplug God the way you might unplug Google Brain. God's power source is infinite and paradoxical if God is from which if God is from which everything was birthed. Okay, so one more time there. I highly doubt anyone can unplug God the way you might Google Brain. God's power source is infinite and paradoxical if God is that from which everything was birthed. There we go. Okay. Far superior to Google Brain, God seemingly somehow... Sorry. Okay, far superior to Google Brain, God somehow created everything that is and all that we experience here from his, her, its own imagination with no external references of any kind, because prior to the creation of the universe, nothing yet existed outside of itself. Okay, again, this is speculative, so it's just one possibility, it's not definitive. Unlike Google Brain, God had no way to depend upon another intelligence for its ideas because there wasn't one. God imagined and created the universe and all of physical life entirely on his, her, its own. Impressive. Every concept which governs our universe. Sorry if you're hearing sound, by the way, it's some of the snow melting. The snow is melting off my house and the ice is falling off. Every concept which governs our universe was somehow inexplicably conceived by God. Phenomena like stars, solar systems, galaxies, supernova, black holes, and the existence of atoms themselves, as well as all of the human and animal senses of sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, with which an organic being might experience life on a planet, were dreamed up from scratch. How did God ever even begin to imagine a universe? We'll ask Jesus. This suggests a level of power and creativity far, far above Google Brain, which is essentially incomprehensible from our point of view. Again, the universe is the ultimate marriage of art and science. Its sheer beauty, elegance, as well as the ferocity of nature reveals the heart and craft of a sensitive creative artist with an eye for great detail. Simultaneously, the mathematical laws which govern matter, space, electromagnetism, the strong and weak nuclear forces, and time suggest the precise tinkerings of an ultra-rational, super-powerful, computer-type intelligence of practically limitless scope and power, but with the emotional, creative sensitivity and impulses of the most talented artist. The universe in which we reside is essentially code, perfectly calculated to enable life, but it's profoundly physically beautiful. In my opinion, God is the original coder and aesthete. So that is that chapter, making an argument, like drawing parallels between advancements in artificial intelligence and how it compares to the creativity of God, with God being far superior. So, thoughts are welcome on that. We're at 22 minutes, so I think maybe I will pause there and then do the next chapter as a separate one. So let me know what you think, if you please. If it's just too much, if it seems just too overwhelming, too hard to grasp, or isn't that interesting, perhaps, as I find it, you're welcome to say so. Because the way that I make art is I'm compelled to make art the way that I feel driven to make it. I know that it won't speak to everyone, but I hope that it speaks to the right people, so to speak. And that's what you have to hope for. You know, sometimes writers will they will simplify or dumb down their ideas in order to try to appeal to more people, but I'm just like not really capable of doing that. It doesn't. It feels wrong to me to do that. It feels like I'm betraying my intuition and my instincts if I do that. So it's a little tough because it can limit your audience when you sort of feel like you have to stick to your guns and not compromise on your content. But it makes me feel more true to myself, and I do believe that part of what's imbued to us by the Creator is for us to fully embrace our uniqueness, fully embrace our own perspective, our own way of seeing, and to express that and to share that with the world. And because everyone is so different, it enriches the world. That's how I see it. So, all right. So I'll leave it there. Thanks for checking this out. Likes, shares, comments, subscribes, all of that stuff is good. And I'll be back again very quickly to do the other couple chapters that are related to keep them all kind of tight together here in the postings. All right. Talk to you soon. Thanks very much. Bye.